Hello, everybody, and welcome to our episode of the Nifty Experience. I'm Will Rains.
I'm Jeremy Jones.
And thanks for joining us today. But before we get into our topic, we want you to like and subscribe and make sure you hit the bell button below. Really helps us out, helps the YouTube algorithm, and we're just glad you're here. So today, we're gonna talk to you about some signs that it might be time for you to rebrand. And Jeremy's gonna walk us through this, and we're just gonna jump right into this. So tip number one, Jeremy, what would you say would be the biggest sign for you to start maybe potentially rebranding?
So I would say probably one of the top priorities of when a company decides they need to rebrand is when they're trying to just simply differentiate themselves from the competition. You know, there can be times where a business is stuck and they're trying to say, how can we be different? And sometimes a business can try different products or different services, but simply doing a rebrand could change up your image completely different from your competitors. So that could definitely be one of the top priorities going into a rebrand, is just being different from your competition.
So would you say that there is more of a priority if your competition is doing better or worse than you, or do you think that it really kind of just depends on the situation?
I think it really just depends on the situation more so. It depends on what you're trying to do as a company and what your goals are, and you need to compare it to what your competition's doing. So I would say it really just depends on the situation.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Alrighty, sweet. So let's get into our second tip real quick. What would you say would be the second biggest sign for you to maybe consider rebranding?
So similar to the last topic is when you're just trying to change your business model. You know, maybe internally your business is changing. You're growing, you're doing different things, you're doing different services, and you maybe not be doing the same services as you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And you may need to rebrand your image to match those services. So just changing up your business model can be a good sign of change.
Do you think it's pretty crucial to have your brand kind of relate and maybe correlate a little bit to what services you're providing to people?
I think it's very important to have your brand match what your services are, because you don't really want to have services that don't reflect your brand, because people nowadays really want to have a brand that focuses on their own personal values, and you need to match that up so where it all correlates together, and it's, you create a community with that too. So I would say it's very important.
So I'm gonna put you a little bit on the spot right here,
Okay,
but
okay.
I'm gonna ask you a question. So what brands do you think do a really great job of showcasing, hey, this is kind of what we're all about, this is what our brand looks like, and it really does correlate with the type of services that they provide?
I would honestly, one of the things off the top of my head, I would probably say Amazon. Simply because just in their logo is so simple. They've got the smiley face logo when it connects from A to Z, and they mean that as Amazon sells everything from A to Z. So I think Amazon is a really big example.
Yeah, they got the arrow too showing, yep. That's really good.
So I would say that Amazon's probably one of the biggest examples of how their brand correlates and matches their services.
Yeah, okay, sweet. That's great. Yeah, solid example. So let's move on real quick to sign number 3 of you should probably consider rebranding. What would you say sign number 3 is?
So number 3 is just you simply have outgrown your brand. Similar to the last topic, your company's just grown too big, and your branding at the time may have been done by somebody who really wasn't the top professional. You maybe didn't put your biggest budget into your branding. You may have been starting, you're now 10 years into your business and you just need a refresh, So simply just over time, you're going to need a rebrand.
So you mentioned 10 years. Would you say that let's say there's a company that's not having a whole lot of success, or a startup that's maybe only 6 months to a year into their business and they're not really seeing a lot of sales. Would you say that if you're not seeing success initially, should you still consider rebrand, or do you think you should tough it out?
I would think a rebrand would be a good solution, especially since if you are starting out and you're not getting much traction, sometimes it's just simply your brand, and people don't follow your brand because of just the image, and they don't agree with what your identity is giving off.
For sure.
So yeah, I would definitely agree.
Okay, yeah, that's great advice too.
Yeah.
So we got 2 more tips.
Yep.
You want to take us right into tip number 4?
So tip number 4 is going to be if you go into a merger or acquisition. So basically, if you're combining 2 companies, or if you get bought out or anything like that, your services are going to change, your whole company is going to change. So that is definitely a good example of when you would need to do a rebrand.
That's definitely much more of a niche kind of.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
Totally
not
understand.
very a big topic, but it does happen, and it's definitely a necessity. I would
Okay.
say.
Well, I guess we're at our last sign that you should rebrand. So do you want to just take us home right now?
Yeah. So for the last sign that it's time to rebrand is simply just trying to connect with a new audience. You know, whether you may be trying to go after a younger market, an older market, a different demographic, sometimes your brand image does not match up with that target market. And if you really want to go after that, you're going to have to do a rebrand.
Yeah.
So it just depends on, you may have an outdated logo or just one that just doesn't connect with that audience. You just got to pick and choose what battles you want to go for, and just make that decision.
It's interesting because I think that applies too for even content creators if they want to switch up kind of what they're posting. I think that applies even for platforms too. I think that applies to so many people. It's a good thing we saved that one for last because best for last, right? That's a great tip and
Yeah.
a really good sign. So, all right, Jeremy, you want to take us home? I think that's all we got.
Right on. Well, hey, thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps our YouTube algorithm, and I hope to see you in the next one.
See you guys later.